Hello everyone, back to today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather the next week to 10 days in today's second video. This will take us to around the 15th of June, so we're going to go up towards the middle part of the month with this update on unsettled weather. At the moment, we'll see how long this is predicted to go on for. Earlier today, we had a quick look at the events that are coming up at the end of the week at the Isle of Wight Festival and also Download at Donington, so have a look at that if you're interested in those events. This evening I have a second update for Le Mans. So just over central England temperature, and we currently stand provisionally at 15.2 in the central England region. That's an anomaly of 2 degrees above average, and that is provisional up to yesterday, 4th of June. So it's been a pretty warm start to June, to say the least. These are 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the E70F here on the top, and the GFS is down on the bottom. We'll have a look at it in a moment. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure being moved around by a jet stream. And on these charts, blue is extrapolated to low pressure, and orange, red, brighter colours extrapolate to high pressure. So for the next week, 10 days, and these are the mean flow charts for the next 7 to 10 days, we find that we've got a ridge here, albeit quite a weak one, out to the northwest of the country, a little bit of a trough to the northeast, and then quite a big ridge across central eastern parts of Europe. That ridge across central and eastern Europe will be bringing quite a bit of hot air up into central and eastern parts of the continent. But over in the west, we've still got a bit of an Atlantic flow here. So overall, I would suggest it's not desperately unsettled, but it is still a little bit on the changeable side, and probably temperatures very close to average. The GFS is quite a bit different, really. Broad themes are the same, but it's a much stronger signal. So we've got a much bigger ridge there out to the northwest around Greenland and Iceland. Also got a much deeper trough over Scandinavia, and then we have, of course, that ridge through central and southern parts of Europe. Essentially, the jet stream with this one is doing something a little bit like that. It's still the same idea, but it's perhaps a little bit more changeable, and perhaps a little bit more cooler as well. And the reason is that the flow is slightly more northerly, I think, there, as opposed to the E70F, which is a little bit more sort of westerly. But overall, not huge differences, really, between the two models. So, this is the GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble chart for the next 2 weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. So we're going to be going a little bit cooler than average over the next couple of days. And then at the end of the week into the weekend, we're going quite warm. After that, we see the temperatures dropping off through into next week. And then we're sticking close to the 30-year temperature average, really, through into the middle part of June, which is this period just here. We start off quite unsettled. There's going to be a fair amount of rain around in the next 24 hours, and then there'll be some more rain at times through the course of the week and into the weekend. Showery in nature. We move through into the middle part of June, and it certainly isn't a desperately wet signal, but it is a little bit on the unsettled side still. Not truly settling down at the moment. Probably just keeping showery bursts coming through rather than anything particularly wet. So middle of June is looking drier compared to what we've got going on right now, but probably still a little bit on the showery side. Temperature anomalies are coming out very close to average for the next week. This is taking us from the 5th through to the 13th of June. Very close to average with those temperature anomalies. A little bit cooler than average for northern parts, perhaps. Precipitation anomalies for next week, going from the 5th through to the 13th of June. Again, it's looking wetter than average, particularly for the north and west, close to average for the southeast. I would expect these, when we get the next couple of days out of the way, I would expect these charts to start trending drier as we run up towards the middle part of June. So this is how the GFS is picking things up for Friday. Low pressure is out to the southwest of the country, heading in our direction. That could bring some wet and windy weather to the northern part of the country. However, for the south, we've actually got this ridge building up over France. The Azores High is throwing up a ridge into France. So that means drier and warmer conditions for southern parts of the country, whereas in the north it does look quite unsettled as we start the weekend. Go through to Sunday, and we find that ridge of anything pulling out to the west of us, and we bring a cold front down across the country, so that starts to turn winds into the north. But for a while, over the weekend, it will be very warm, I think, down in the south. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see temperatures into the mid-20s Celsius easily across southern parts of the country on Saturday. We might still have bad in the south on Sunday as this cooler air begins to push down from the north. By the time you get through to this time next week, which is Monday 12th of June, of course, the wind has gone into the north for all of us, so that's a lot cooler and fresher. Probably showery in the north and the east, a lot of dry weather close to this high pressure out in the west. And then after that, running up to day 10, we really keep that sort of setup going. So this takes us to day 10, which is Thursday the 15th of June, where we find we've got high pressure in the Atlantic, a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge. We've got low pressure in over Scandinavia, and the flow is coming from a west-northwesterly type direction. That could be bringing in showers to the northern part of the country, but I would think overall there's a reasonable amount of dry weather there, as we are sort of blocking off the Atlantic, so we're not bringing those Atlantic weather systems through. So probably fairly pleasant, reasonable amount of dry weather, some showery bursts at times, especially for the north and the east. And temperatures, that's perhaps the main thing, temperatures a little bit on the cool side. We go through to East Central, and again for Friday it's very similar. So another area of low pressure is out in the Atlantic. That's heading in as we start the weekend, bringing wind and rain into the west, but south and east though could be mostly dry and quite warm. Into Sunday, low pressures out to the northwest of Scotland, so expect cloud and rain from the northwest. We're close to this ridge across France, but the south and the east, and that could bring a fair amount of dry and warm weather over weekend to southern and eastern parts of the country. Early next week, that low pressure pushes away to the north of Scotland, and that turns the winds into the north, so it turns cooler and fresher for all of us through the early part of next week. And as we run up to day 10, essentially it's the same idea as a GFS really. We're keeping high pressure out to our west. It is extending a ridge across the country, so I have got an extension from that high pressure across the country, so there's a reasonable amount of dry weather, but the flow is probably coming from a northwesterly type direction, so it's not going to be particularly warm. It might actually be a little bit on the cooler side, but it is significantly drier compared to where we've got going on right now. So we're starting quite unsettled at the moment. I think we're going to gradually see things drying up as we go through into the weekend, and then next week it could take quite a while to really dry things up, and I'm not sure it's ever going to settle down totally, but we'll probably, even up to the middle part of June, still be showery conditions around, but becoming drier gradually, and temperatures, they will be very warm, I think, in the south for a time over weekend, and then falling back to average early next week. Overall, nothing particularly dramatic going on up to the middle part of June, other than today and tomorrow, the really wet and windy weather that we're experiencing. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.